94% of children who are victims of sexual abuse know their offender in some way, making them more hesitant to report the crime. That's according to the Zero Abuse Project.
Northern News Now's Madison Green explains what steps our local criminal justice system is taking to help these child victims.
How can we help crime victim survivors? That's the question law enforcement, prosecutors, social workers, and others in northeastern Minnesota hope to answer at this year's Criminal Justice Summit Thursday.
Oftentimes when we talk about criminal justice reform, the rights and the needs of victims are glossed over.
St. Louis County Attorney Kim Mackey says her office sees a large variety of cases, which means the victims of these crimes require a large variety of care. Katie Dahl with Zero Abuse Project spoke at the summit to help attendees understand one type of victim who is very easily overlooked.
There's just a rich history of not necessarily prioritizing cases involving children because of some perceived inabilities to provide accurate and reliable information.
When, in fact, Dahl says this may be the group that requires the most guidance after being victimized.
A lot of cases, especially involving sexual maltreatment of children, often lack witnesses and often lack things like DNA or medical evidence because most kids will delay their disclosure for 6 months or more, sometimes years or decades.
Making it more challenging for people like Mackey to help, but she knows there needs to be a greater effort to understand every victim.
They're struggling, and they're not always the easiest to deal with, but that doesn't matter to us. We need to reach them where they are. We need to learn from our, past mistakes that we've made, or, just get better every single day.
In Duluth, Madison Green, Northern News Now.
And through Victim Services, the county helps victims with their rights. They share resources and helps them understand any financial compensation that they may be entitled to during and even after their case has ended. If you or a loved one is a victim of abuse, we have resources you can reach out to on our website.